Thank you. If you wish to address the council, please complete the public wishing to address the council form located on either end of the counter and give it either to the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. All comments must be addressed to the council as a whole. Addressing individual council members or staff is not allowed. Speakers should be courteous in their choice of words, and actions and comments shall be limited to the issue and cannot involve the individuals or staff-related matters. Thank you. All cell phones and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'll now call the meeting to order with Brian Pledger leading us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we ask that you give us guidance, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we may better be able to make decisions for this great parish of Terrebonne. We ask that you bless this great nation. We ask that you bless this state, and we ask again that you bless this parish of Terrebonne. These and many other blessings we ask in your darling Son Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Voisin. Mr. Voisin, Mr. Amity, Mr. Champagne, Mr. Hamner,
Here.
Babin, Ms. Chauvin, Mr. Trustclair, Mr. Pledger, Mr. Harding. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. Item 1, approve the co-sponsorship request from the American Cancer Society for the Bark for Life of Terrebonne event to be held November 9th, 2024 from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Houma Courthouse Square. Moved by Mr. Harding, seconded by Mr. Champagne. Seeing no lights, members vote your machine. Motion passes 9-0. Item 2, approve the co-sponsorship request from East Side Day for the Community Thanksgiving Dinner to be held November 24th, 2024 from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. at 2814 Percy Gabriel Lane, Houma, Louisiana 70363. Moved by Mr. Pledger. Seconded by Ms. Chauvin. Seeing no lights, members vote your machine. Motion passes 9-0. Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the parish president to enter into the appropriate agreement with Terrebonne Consultants Incorporated for asbestos and lead testing for demolition work such as the Ida reconstruction program. Moved by Mr. Babin. Seconded by Mr. Harding. Seeing no lights, members, we got a light? Mr. Harding.
It says for our restructuring program. Do we have an idea of how many buildings that we may have that we actually have to go through with this?
All right, Mr. Pulaski.
So this is for the reconstruction program for residential. So right now, we've got roughly 60, I think, in the two batches. We've got some that are like on a alt list if other spots open up. And then also this contract could be used for future reconstruction. This isn't for parish buildings. This would be for those reconstruction homes.
And I think that's a good thing because after the hurricane, we had the demolition thing, and then we had to go restructure ourselves because some of those houses that they were demolishing had asbestos in, so it actually
Right.
makes a difference in the cost.
It's
So-
hard to pinpoint an exact number because some of them may not have lead, some may not have either. It's going to depend once we get into the program.
Okay, then. I just want to make sure that is funding because it goes, we got cancer in item number 1, we got asbestos here in item number 3, so we want to make sure those
right.
things are taken care of. All right, thank you.
Ms. Chauvin?
Yeah, do you know, this is like throughout the parish, or is it in,
These are all over the
all
parish.
over the parish?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, All right, thank you. Do you know, like, on the waiting list, we have a lot more on the waiting list?
Oh, yeah, we probably
How
have
much?
times two what we.
Times two? You
what
have
we
about
had
120.
initially. Yeah.
You have 120 on the waiting list?
Probably so.
Wow. Okay. All right, thanks.
Members, vote your machine. Motion passes, or resolution passes 9-0. Item 4, resolution authorizing parish president to amend the existing agreement with Rostan Solution LLC to extend the contract term for project and grant management services for flood mitigation assistance and pre-disaster mitigation grants. Moved by Mr. Babin, second by Ms. Chauvin. Seeing no lights, members, vote your machine. Motion passes. Did you vote? Motion passes 9-0. Item 5, in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statutes 42:17A2 and Revised Statute 42:19, the Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee will convene into executive session with parish administration to discuss the protest submitted on Monday, October 28, 2024, by Clessy Burns LLC regarding the council's resolution to reject all proposals for employee group health benefits agent of record services. Clessy Burns LLC requests for administrative resolution and prospective litigation and negotiations relative thereto. Ms. Neal?
Yes, sir. I propose that we should probably bring in Candace Malden, Jason Bergeron, Noah Lered, Robbie Lee. We also have Crystal Tipton and Ryan Page.
Any objection? Okay. Do we need a
We need a
motion to
motion.
go
Yes,
into?
sir.
Motion by Mr. Trosclair, second by Mr. Pledger to convene into executive session. Members, vote your machine. Motion passes 9-0.
It's gonna be a nice cozy party. I have something to hand out to you. It's just for you to. Bring your glasses. It's really mostly to keep me on track.
Good? Good?
It's my copy. Huh? No, that's like my son I was looking for. How are you? So you don't put your damn on stuff, see that what happens. I tell you that. Now you're looking for stuff.
same ones that we put the radar signs on, the permanent radar signs.
Yeah.
Same exact ones. And the only reason why we use that is because whatever we see, that's utility stops, and that's where we start to get stuff. Yeah, they're not as big diameter as the ones that are out there now. They're a little bit smaller, but not much smaller. Probably, I think 6 inches diameter are the ones that are out there now. This might be a 4. That goes back to the constant, the updating of the subdivision guidelines. Like my subdivision here. My subdivision, we are maybe, has to replace some holes. Actually, wow, they got three different types of holes in the subdivision. Some of those holes like $600-700 a piece.
Yeah, I think we would wanna. Yeah, I think already times in your life. Yeah, ultimately it's not something that. Oh, I got so.
Is to find a way to regulate to show. Look at there's different holes, let's say, alright, that's versus $60 a piece of challenge. Last count, I had $1,000 a piece. So let's just say there's 2 sides.
Okay, we'll accept everything, but it's all or nothing.
It's gotta be all. There's no. So, ever since I've always been told, subdivision, solid. We don't accept it. The ones that you do have, and then shut down the road right away. And then issue. Well, how do you reach, my subdivision is. I want that. I think I ran into a state. That's cool. But he puts that down. Yes. Very. It's like Woodburn, it's Elm. That one of those people still call me. Just an 8
So I'm waiting for back. But I will go. Check for purchases. Yeah, I would love to see
Because we're not, if you remember, when they hit it, they knocked one of them off. Lived one of them down. And pulled the other one completely out.
Were you able to get the paid for by the insurance? Is that one on?
I kinda say yes. Back when John Burke was here, I didn't get him. John Burke was kinda good at.
The one on Orange Chevrolet. Turner, highway. That one, someone stole it. Hey, Cody. He's maybe.
Out of curiosity, do you know if those, I've always, I don't want to ask those questions. Help that one. The guy, I got a call. He was just confused about his. I was. And. Called parents, like, how did you know? That's how I did it. It wasn't you calling. Oh, yeah, I tried. Now, authorized channel. Yeah, I never liked it. See,
Look at this.
So I love that whole those actually better than the top three of my visions ever. So I was looking back. So every time I see I have Terrebonne Parish. That's the name of it. And or whatever drink. Yeah. It took us. But that was them. All the way to Chile. Kids, people, all skeletons. Well, we get full time.
Yeah, I mean, legals don't. I was just curious, because you don't know. So we're on to the next one, which is, the newest sections are connected to old sections. Oh, yeah, lands there. That's the lands now. So I'm sure they'll be happy. They'll probably, I would imagine. Stop sign, King and Pearl. You have that, then you got batteries, driveway, but oh, yeah. But we don't have all that. I can see maybe, well, sure. Making that. That would solve all. Planning commission. Now there's only as the developers develop up. Yeah, me too. The southern side, like the side that's behind, right, right.
academy, around academy to all that section of it. Yeah. So expensive for replacing panel. Because they can't plug in.
No, someone asked about it.
Yeah, they've tried that. There is a.
Now that would give you several of them. Usually otherwise, we're just gonna drive around.
Yeah.
It's cool, like, spikes that they go around and stop when there's.
I don't know how you would not. point was at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah. I tell you what, she can know her way home, but it's too much of going out there on that road. We out in the middle of nowhere, break down, somebody pull up on you, don't know. Well, got some old hick people in Mississippi, that ain't good. Broke down. It goes.
Man, it's nice and cool in here, Tammy. Thank you. What's the temperature? 65? Yeah, it ain't cold enough for me.
It's too cold.
I want it a little colder.
Robert Rules of Order said we can actually, me and Michelle was discussing that. I'm gonna find it.
I didn't send it. I need to find it in my book.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a Robert Rules of Order. Okay, it's fine.
Okay.
Motion to go back to regular order?
Second.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion at this time to come out of executive session.
Ryan-
Oh,
Ryan and Steve.
you, okay. Any objection? Hearing none, members vote your machine. Do you have a question? Okay. Vote is 9-all. Item 6, consider the possible action relative to aforementioned executive session regarding the protest submitted on Monday, October 28, 2024 by Plessy Burns LLC and prospective legal action.
Make a motion that we take no further action at this time.
We have a motion by Mr. Pledger and second by Ms. Chauvin? Or was that Mr. Trosclair?
But it does sound like.
Any, are these lights on or? All right. Thank you. Members, vote your machine. Motion passes 9-all. Motion to adjourn, moved by Mr. Babin, second by Mr. Trosclair. Members, vote your machine. Okay.
No, it's Kim's turn.
No, it's just you and me.
Oh, that's right.
I know y'all like me. Y'all just want me to be up there.
All right, Steve.
Want to read some condemnation for 3 months?
I'll read all the condemnation. Bring it on.
Man. Notice to the public, if you wish to address the council, please complete the wishing to address the council form located on either end of the counter and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. All comments must be addressed to the council as a whole. Addressing individual council members or staff is not allowed. Speakers should be courteous in their choice of words and actions, and comments shall be limited to the issue and cannot involve individual or staff-related matters. All cell phones and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Council Budget and Finance Committee to order, and we'll do a prayer by, invocation by Mr. Carl Harding and pledge by Mr. Carl Harding.
Heavenly Father, as we that are here, and just the imagination that if we did not have our lives and how our lives would affect others, we ask, oh God, that the decisions that we make here, we make these decisions, oh God, with the presence of those lives that we actually represent. We ask that you give us the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, oh God, that we would be doing the things that are the best interest of your holy kingdom. And if we can actually help one person along the way, then our efforts would not be in vain. I ask you to bless us in your darling Son, Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Charlie, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Voisin, Mr. Amity, Mr. Champagne, Mr. Hamner, Mr. Babin, Ms. Chauvin, Mr. Trosclair, Mr. Pledger,
Here.
Mr. Harding. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. Item number one, a motion to amend the condemnation order adopted July 23rd, 2024 on the residential structure located at 216 Isle of Cuba Road, owned by Gerald Rodrigue, Michael Rodrigue, Marilyn Rodrigue, Mabel, Julia Marie Rodrigue Fletcher, Susan Rodrigue Botner, Thelma Rodrigue Gisclair, and Martha Rodrigue Walker by changing the deadline to repair, demolish, and/or remove from October 29th, 2024 to January 23rd, 2025. Move Mr. John Amity, second Ms. Kim Chauvin. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Votes 9-0, motion passes. Item number two, resolution setting the council meeting dates for calendar year 2025. Move Mr. Steve Trosclair, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members seeing no lights, vote your machines. Votes 9-0, motion passes. Item number three, resolution declaring typewriter, Pitney Bowers folder, phones, lawnmower, TV, clothing, printer, scanner, and other various miscellaneous items from various departments, divisions as surplus. Move Mr. Clyde Hamner. Second, Mr. Carl Harding. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Votes 8-0, motion passes. Item number four, consider the introduction of an ordinance to authorize the parish president to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement on behalf of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government between TPCG and Terrebonne Foundation for Academic Excellence in Public Education to lease space in the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government-owned building at 7910 Main Street, Houma, Louisiana 70360, and call a public hearing on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Move Mr. Clyde Hamner. Second, Mr. Steve Trosclair. Mr. Carl Harding.
Yes, and we're just doing it on a fair market value in reference to square footage when you make the rental or the lease agreement.
Mr. Bergeron?
So their previous agreement was an exchange of services. And so we just, we have to do the same agreement. I say we have to do the same agreement, but we talked to them, talked to the attorney about is what they provide an exchange of services where we don't charge them a lease.
Okay.
And so we're just doing it with us because they had it with Whitney Bank previously.
Okay, that's good. I didn't see no dollar amount. I just was actually
Right.
concerned about that. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bergeron. Ms. Parish Attorney?
Yes, thank you. There is in the ordinance itself, and I'm trying to find it in my backup. The ordinance itself will tell you what the value is on an annual basis. I'm looking for it.
saw a number. I don't think I saw a number.
The value is around 11,500 annually.
Where's that found?
That's in the ordinance in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, in the eighth whereas.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I got to the 110% after the month to month, and I didn't actually see it, and it's just my oversight. Well, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Miss Michelle. Mr. Harding. Seeing no further lights, members, vote your machines. Votes 9-0, motion passes. Item number 5, consider the introduction of an ordinance to amend the 2024 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Item number 1, animal shelter, $25,000. Item number 2, sewerage, $75,000. Item number 3, Bayou Terrebonne Miter Gate, $455,000. Item number 4, FMA flood mitigation, $465,534. Item number 5, Industrial Boulevard Pump Station, $4,626,945. And call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024 at 6:30 PM. Move Mr. Danny Babin. Second, Mr. Carl Harding. Seeing no lights, members, vote your machines. Item number 6, review 2025 proposed budget. Miss Candace Light, there we go. All right, we're good. Let's go.
All right, so tonight, we continue our budget hearings. We will first go over Public Works, and there's several different pages in this. The first department is going to be Public Works Engineering on page 103. We have some personnel changes under the highlights. We're gonna add 1 assistant director, grade 212, eliminate 1 staff engineer, grade 211, add 1 infrastructure contract compliance officer, grade 109, and eliminate 2 engineering technicians, grade 107. Then if you look at the federal transit grant, so we have the Good Earth Transit as well as the City of Thibodaux. On page 206, the FTA grant for Terrebonne Parish, there are no significant changes. And on page 207, Fund 238 for the City of Thibodaux is no significant changes as well.
Just, Ms. Candace, I just want to make sure everybody's following along. You're able to keep up where she's at so far. Just make
Just
sure.
tell me
a
to
little
slow
bit of-
down if
yeah,
not.
we'll slow her down if not. Yeah, okay, thanks.
So next is gonna be the Parish Transportation Fund. This is gonna be budget highlights on page 157. The revenues are subject to annual state appropriation, therefore $600,000 is estimated through the state's fiscal year end of June 30th, 2025. We have direct services for street repairs, which is $1 million, and they are based on the estimated 2024 revenue through June 30th and any unallocated fund balance at December 31st, 2024. Next is going to be our road and bridge. So next page, page 159. In 1992, the voters approved a 1/4-cent sales tax used to fund this division. The 2024 collections are estimated to be about $7 million, which is a 2.03% decrease from the 23 collections and the same as the 24 projected collections. General fund supplements this division as needed, and for 2025, that is going to be a 0 supplement. Major operating expenditures, gasoline and oil is $55,000, Shell is $250,000, urban street lights is $173,095, and street repairs is about $2.2 million. We have some personnel changes. Add one operations manager, grade 212. Add one bridge superintendent, grade 211. Add one field tech 2, grade 104. Eliminate 3 bridge tenders, grade 102.
Mr. Carl Harding?
I didn't know where it's gonna fit, and we're looking at it on page 163. And I have a passion because the rural area that I represent, we're having some problems, and we're looking at an opportunity for the lateral ditches. And so canals and lateral ditches maintenance, we're looking at 300,000. It's an increase from last year, which it was 100,000, and I think the year before that was 200,000 before
Mr.
that.
Harding, may I stop you just for a
Yeah.
second? That's drainage. We're on
Drainage?
road and bridge right now.
Road
so
and bridge, I
give me
thought-
1 second before we get there.
Okay,
Just to make sure we're clear, we're on 160, right?
We're on page 159.
Yeah, 159, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, well,
159, okay, yeah.
well.
We'll get
save
there
my
next,
life.
and then we
Yeah,
can
right,
ask.
Yeah,
All
okay.
right, Ms. Chauvin, did you have something in regards to Ms., oh, I'm sorry, Steve? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. The add one operations manager, that's a new position we creating, or is that an existing position that was open?
That is a new position that we're creating.
Okay, and, I mean, what's the need of having another manager in roads and bridges?
I'll give a little bit and then I'll let administration give the background. The purpose of this is we are doing kind of an overall reorganization of public works in order to make it work a little bit more efficiently and effectively. But I'll let administration talk about why they have chosen to do this reorg.
Ms. Badger?
Yeah, so, in the process, and we actually did this in a few or a few departments last year, and we're continuing to look to do this as we go throughout. And just make sure that when we look at, changing job descriptions, adding measurable tasks, and having conversations with these one-on-ones, when we talk about things that are, going well, not going well, the conversations have come up about, is there a way to, if we were to create this department from scratch, what would it look like? And so as we're doing this reorg in Public Works, it's, as I understand, we're taking Scotty was over pollution control. We're elevating that person because we're gonna put Scotty over some other areas. And hopefully he could have the same success in pollution control that he had in the other area, in the other areas that he had in pollution control. And through that, we're separating roads and bridges out to each be their own department. And if we need more information, I can get David up here to talk a little bit more about it, but that's basically what we're
Right,
doing.
that's cool. And then, I think, Candace, you may have misspoke, or maybe I misheard you, but, you said add one field tech, 2, grade 104.
That should have been eliminate.
Okay. But when you said.
I really need to wear reading glasses.
I just want to make sure, but that's what I was reading.
It is eliminate one.
Okay, so this add one operation, man, that's being transferred from within organization, that's not a new hire. Correct. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Trosclair. Ms. Chauvin?
Okay, so I'm looking at this bridge tenders. You're gonna eliminate 3 bridge tenders. Where at?
So these are all open positions and we are covering them currently through overtime, which is actually a cheaper function for us.
Okay, so the money that you would get from eliminating the field technician and the bridge tender sections is gonna go to the 2 new.
So it's gonna go back into the savings will go back into the fund and that allows us either to fund those 2 new additional positions or the increase in the street repairs. The savings just gets dumped into that fund balance and we use it however we need fit for those expenditures to be covered.
So where do we see ourselves in fixing the bridges that are like from 1968 to 1971 to 1972 that are fixing to fall apart? Because I'm,
Right.
and I get it.
No,
There's
so
not-
I'll share, and it's just some of the stuff that we're looking at with, like, even the CBDR money. The last road study, if I'm not mistaken, and David could correct me, was in 2002. So with funding, with funding inside the current budget, we're gonna do a road and bridge study, of which point that'll let us know what the priorities are, what it would look like for cost to replace and rebuild. And then I know we have a conversation with the council on a road priorities list, right? So through that, us working together to identify those priorities and then going and looking and see, can we get infrastructure funding to do it? Kind of like what I did with the striping, where it's $3.2 million for us to stripe every road in the parish. can I get that from infrastructure through federal earmarks and those kind of things? So as we get this study completed, beginning of the year, we'll be looking at, okay, in this parish, we got these roads and these bridges that all need to be repaired. But based on safety and age and everything, these are the ones that we're going to look at as a priority and then look to find the funding to get that done.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bergeron. Ms. Kim, Mr. Danny Babin.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of department heads in the audience tonight, and you just alluded, if you want David to come up. I mean, I see David and Scotty and Joy here from Public Works and Mr. Joe from the other one. I mean, if they want to, if they need to add anything to this, would you like to come up? I'm just saying, since we're here and it's a big part of our budget, we want to make sure we're all on the same page.
They are free to come up and talk.
Yeah, no, I knew
Link,
they
if you
would be,
okay.
but so if somebody wants to come up and speak, we all do.
Yeah, David's like, I talk to you guys all day. I'm good.
All right.
We good, Mr. Babin?
But talk.
I think Tammy can do that for us. We're good. Okay. I have one question if there's no other. Just to make sure I'm clear and help educate me here, we're adding an ops manager to roads and bridges, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's basically the same person that's going to come from another department to roads and bridges. Now, in that department, wherever they're coming from, we're eliminating it over there and putting it over here for the same salary and all
So-
that, or?
You're not eliminating it over there, because what's happening over there in pollution control, and we'll get to that in a minute, is there's going to be someone that's going to move up into the current position of that person, and then we're eliminating some bottom positions that we don't need. So it's not an exact deletion and elimination of positions, but it is, at the end of the day, a deletion of positions. That did not make sense. I'm sorry.
I'm really
You want me to
confused
try it
now.
again?
There's no termination. Right, I mean, that's.
So we're not terminating anybody.
Right.
But the position that's coming from pollution control to road and bridge, they are going to leave a vacant position open. Somebody in pollution control is going to move up to that vacant position, and then that position and a couple other ones below that one will be eliminated. So at the end of the day, we are saving money between them all.
There you go.
Let me take a stab at it. Good evening, David Rome, Public Works Director for Terrebonne Parish, 206 Government Street. Essentially, what we're doing with this reorganization, Mr. Dryden and Mr. Seahan are my operations managers, right? So, if you will, they're over certain divisions that have no administrators, right? When Mr. Dryden came, we had Greg Bush was the administrator of pollution control. He since retired and we never filled that position. So that position was vacant. Scotty, in his position as operations manager, ran pollution control. We now have the opportunity to have someone within our ranks already move up. Brian Buquet has been moved up into the administrator position, which means he can take the reins, he can run the ship, and we can move Scotty and his talents to other divisions that are necessary. Does that help?
Makes all the sense in the world. Thanks, Candace. Okay, yeah, thanks. Now, is that a lateral move for him, or so just a lateral move, right?
For Mr.
Dryden.
Dryden, it's a lateral move, yes, sir.
Easy enough. Thanks. Mr. Babin?
Yeah, when we talk about eliminating positions, are these positions that aren't filled right now that
All
we've
of-
been trying for years to
sir.
fill them? Okay,
And I
just
should
wanna
have
make
said that
clear.
before I started, and I meant to say it
Right.
again.
Yeah.
So all of the positions that you see in this budget currently that we are eliminating is vacant positions that have been vacant for a couple of months and haven't been able to fill. And the whole thought of that is we will look at the department and say, can we make what we need to get done to our citizens in the parish as a whole with the current people that we have in place? Because we haven't filled those positions in a couple of months anyway.
And we are budgeting each year money for those positions that aren't filled.
Correct, yes, sir.
So now we can utilize that money wisely.
Elsewhere.
It's not just sitting in this however many dollars throughout a year, not being able to be used to help the citizens of this parish.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Harding?
Yeah, and that was along the lines I was looking at because the price of one field technician, grade 104, and eliminating three bridge tenders at grade 102 is a certain value to that. Not just on the hourly salary, but then other the factors that we actually bring that in. And that was my concern, whether these jobs were out there and no one applied for them, or were there any applications that anyone had to apply for them? And that's the most important thing is eliminating and actually adding people. So thank you.
Mr. Steve Trosclair?
Yeah, and I had one more question I forgot to answer. On the diesel, and you got slash pumps, I'm assuming that's the pump that pump the diesel, we use, I don't know why it got slash pumps. But we have a decrease of $150,000. We anticipating using 150,000 less diesel this year than we?
So you jumped over to drainage on me. We were still on road and bridge.
Never mind.
But the answer is yes.
One of my points too.
All right.
That's gonna be one of my points. He's already there. Okay, let's go. Yeah.
So, all right, Ms. Candace, brief us again. You're on one.
I was currently on 159 road and bridge fund.
Right. So I think we're good there. No other lights. So
So
you got
now we're gonna move to page 163, drainage funds.
it.
So drainage fund has a quarter-cent sales tax that is used to fund this division. We also have an ad valorem tax that was renewed for 2018 through 2027, and we are estimating it to generate about $7.8 million in 2025. Operating expenditures, we have other contracts of $2.1 million for lateral maintenance and expansion of acreage rotation. This is an increase of $900,000. Gasoline and oil is $350,000, which is an increase of $25,000. So diesel pumps $1 million, which is a decrease of $150,000. So Mr. Trosclair, to answer your question there, we take this based on the average of the last 3 years and determine can we reduce it or can we not. So it is expected to actually still cover the full amount that we need at the $1 million. Pump repairs is $600,000, which is a decrease of $50,000. Contractors repairs is $1,002,000. Canal and lateral ditch maintenance is $300,000, which is an increase of $100,000. Collection canal cleaning at $20,000. Permit monitoring is $46,000. So we do have a lot of personnel changes here, and this is all, again, has to do with the reorganization of Public Works as well as open positions. So we're eliminating 1 surveyor, eliminating 2 equipment operator 2, eliminate 2 pump attendants, eliminate 3 field tech 2s, and eliminate 5 field tech 1s. We have a proposal of capital. So this is operating capital of about $2.7 million. There are several different pickup trucks that the department needs. They have a very old fleet, so we're trying to replace some of those pickup trucks. We have a skid steer, a trailer. We have 2 compact excavators, a tilt axle trailer, and then we also have some repairs to, or some projects to some levees and drainage ditches and stuff. So we have Hanson Canal bank stabilization for $260,000, Boudreaux Canal levee repairs $300,000, Smith Ridge discharge pipe replacement $200,000, electric breakers at Hanson Canal pump station $150,000, Gibson D16 discharge pipe replacement $150,000, and Bayou St. Louis dredging $200,000.
I have a few lights. I'm sorry. Are you good?
I'm done. Yes, sir.
Mr. Harding?
Okay, so I'm back, and I'm glad Steve asked that question. But my concern here, and I was trying to find out how to put something in that I had trying to do with the Mount Pilgrim project. If my colleagues and we're here, if you look at in the small book, page 290, and I'm just trying to tie in because I want to ask the question because since 1997. And I got Mr. Rome, and I met some of his people that are out there. about that Mount Pilgrim project, and it's been for some time that we had over $1 million that was sitting in there. We just can't figure out what we're going to do with that. And okay, and the Mount Pilgrim project, it states that it says that it includes the lateral ditches in here. It says so. We were trying to figure out because it was forced drainage, and then we're making in preparation for it, but it does have the wording in of forced drainage. Ms. Candace, do you know how much money is left in the Mount Pilgrim project?
I'm looking for it right now, sir, but I do know that Mr. Bajon has something that he would like to talk about for Mount Pilgrim while I look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of things we learned is that the money was put in there due to before the Hanson work that was done, and that once the Hanson work and Elliott Jones work was done, it was deemed that doing that work wouldn't be needed due to those changes that were made.
Mhm.
So I've been asking questions on lateral ditches and gathering some information to understand what the protocol is and how do we deal with all that. And I do want to actually get us together and sit down and talk about some of that stuff.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how we figure out how we move forward based on where we are and with the information that we currently do have.
Yeah, and that was the point when we met. It's the fact that we've been having the money sitting there, and we've actually paid the engineers, and we're looking at the fact that it was over $1 million and some dollars. It's been there over 20 some years, and we were trying to figure out how to use the money. When I met with Mr. Rome's 2 men that he sent out there, that's what we need. So if we can actually use that money, because I actually requested those people that would in that area, in the Gibson area on North by Black. Yeah, thank you.
I'm double checking. I just want through situations where I don't think we actually have the money. I think the state still has the money, but I want to confirm with David if that's the case. An idea.
Yeah, so the money is not like sitting in a banking account or somewhere. It's allocated through the state. We've reached out back with them to see if the money was still existed on their books. They are still looking into it because everybody that was there when that money was allocated is gone. So we can't guarantee. But just to kind of remind everyone about that project, there's a lot of property that still needs to be obtained by the parish
Mm-hmm.
in order to build that levee, in order to have a closed system there, right? I believe with mitigation and everything, the project about 6 years ago was 14.6 million. Okay, so we're gonna need a little bit more than that million and a half that was promised to us.
It says funding source 83% Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, 9% is parish-wide drainage construction fund. It has no percentage of drainage tax fund, and 3%, 2,000 public improvement construction fund. So the other factor about that, to fund this and the possibility of funding this, we realized that on North by Black, some of these lateral ditches are privately owned, and some of these lateral ditches are owned by the parish. So my request in early March was to find out which ditches were we responsible as a parish to actually identify the difference between what we are responsible for and some of the people that had private lateral ditches that actually can help.
You're welcome to come to my office, and we have that mapped out.
You have it mapped out?
Yes, sir. That,
Okay.
Mr.
You have to
Bajon
talk
has
to them
that.
because that's the question I asked them.
Yeah, they have the same maps as we
Okay.
have.
I just would like to have some kind of map or send me an email and respond to it. Nothing.
We definitely want to chat about it because through this process, what I do is I go, okay, this is what we're saying is going on here, but we have this other area. How are they the same? How are they different? Why would we not do something here versus what we're doing there? And you're saying March. I'm like, I can't believe it's already been that long.
Yeah.
But I'd love to sit down and just kind of go through
Yeah,
that.
I
what
just
we
want to say
understand
when
and know.
we're funding, and this project has been there, and then, I'm just actually representing the people, and they're constantly saying that we're having this problem, and we had this money, and I have the idea that we have this money, and let's see what we can do to actually assist them, even with some of these butterfly gates that we were talking about when we were out there. I mean, it's just something like that. So if that we can actually find some way to actually get some progress for those people that still have the problem with the lateral ditches. That's why I asked the question, because I thought we had the money available, but we don't have it in our hands.
So correct. So the only money that is left in that budget for that actual project is the 1.4 million from DOTD. So the 9% and the 3% that you mentioned from local funding, that is what we have spent so far towards that project. So we'd have to determine if the 1.4 is still available and if it can be used, how we would see fit. So-
Yeah, and my point being there, if we can use the term lateral ditches, we can take that money, supposedly, and just do the lateral ditches and don't worry about the pump.
No, sir.
It didn't work like that?
Yeah, don't worry about
But we'll talk later on.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk later on about that.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Mr. Champagne.
Yes, I was just kind of looking at, I guess, I think I figured it out, but so the jump from 2023 in supplies and materials for expenditures went up $1 million, and I guess we bought a bunch of pumps or something that it jumped that high, and then it also caused the repair and maintenance to go up significantly from 2023 to 2024. And so I guess that's what my question was, that we must have purchased a bunch of things.
So
and-
I do not know right offhand without
Uh-huh.
looking at the detail, but I will definitely make a note and send that answer to all of y'all this week as to why that increased, because that is a big increase. And right offhand, I'm not.
And so we just kind of carried it over
Sure.
to this year. That's all.
Yeah, I'll get you an answer.
Thanks, Mr. Champagne. Ms. Kim Chauvin?
One, the permit monitoring, please explain that part of it, like, what is it?
I can't explain that. I'll let Mr. Rome explain that. That question
Okay.
comes up every year and I never remember the answer.
I'm about to write my notes.
Permit monitoring is for all of the various permits that we have throughout the parish, and I'm going to use the 11B drainage system as an example, since everybody's pretty much familiar with that. Drains from Nicholls State University all the way down to New Orleans Boulevard. We have to pay, and I think it's somewhere in the $36,000 to $40,000 a year for that one permit to be monitored weekly. So there's sensors throughout that drainage system where the consultant who monitors it for us records that data, plots the data, and makes sure that we stay within the permit limits for the duration of the permit. And that's it in a nutshell.
And how much is it per week?
No. We pay 36,000 a year
Oh,
for
okay.
just the 11B.
I was about to fall out of this chair. I thought you said. Oh, but I got it. Okay. All right. So, all right. Let me get to my next question. I'm looking in the back. It is on page 286, 287, and I'm looking at the drainage part of it. And I'm kind of wondering, and Noah, I think this is going to be for you, but I'm going to have one for you also, Mr. Rome. When I looked at the Bayou Terrebonne clearing and snagging and the Bayou Terrebonne vegetative and debris removal project, I'm looking at the project that has District 8, and it is to remove debris from Hurricane Ida, and there was like 1.6 million.
Spent it.
It was what?
It's gone. We used it.
You use it for what? Because my bayou ain't clean.
For what we could use it for. It was a NRC, the council district may be the wrong one. It was NRC money, Natural Resource and Conservation money that we got right after the storm that removed some of the debris and vegetation.
Right. Only vegetative debris, and that was mostly in the northern part of it before they ran
Okay.
out of money.
Then it must be written wrong because it says vegetative and debris.
Well, yeah, vegetation, debris as in like if somebody's roof blew in there.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Derelict vessels is totally different.
No. I was talking about the debris that is in the bayou that we have down there. Okay, so one of the things that I don't see is one of the projects that we were talking about on Thompson, or maybe I'm missing it.
Highway 57?
Yes.
Yeah, before
It's
we
not
can
on
even,
here.
before we even ask that, we have to approach DOTD. We probably would need to appoint an engineer before we even start going down that road.
Okay.
Because you remember, it's not an asset of the parish.
Right, no, I get that, but I mean, this is something that could help Acadian not to flood, on that part, and so I'm really partial to that because I know that a lot of the issues that they're having is either sewage lines not working and being, flooded at this point, and so do you have a time frame when we can start that conversation?
We've had preliminary conversations, and I think offline, we should continue that conversation to expedite it.
Okay, thank you so much,
Yes,
appreciate it.
ma'am.
Okay. I'm good.
Thanks, Ms. Kim. Mr. John Amity?
And this is for David. So the Lemonade 2 equipment operators, those are excavator operators or?
I believe one's a marsh buggy operator, which we have a marsh buggy, but it needs about $65,000 worth of work to it. And I can't remember off the top of my head what the other equipment operator was. Might have been a track truck or
I
something
know,
to that.
yeah, I just know for a while in the past couple of years, we had a hard time hiring some of these
Yes, sir.
excavator operators. And going back to what Kim was talking about with the permitting, that's Corps of Engineer permits.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just to make that clear. Bayou St. Louis dredging from where to where?
Country Estates Drive all the way to Devil's Swamp. That is the portion that was not done underneath the previous project.
So you went to Hedgeford pretty much the last time?
No, sir. They stopped at dredging. They stopped at Country Estates Drive. We remember we cleaned it recently, but we didn't dredge it. We didn't remove anything from the bottom.
Well, I was gonna say, they still got people's hurricane stuff behind Wallace Thibodeau.
Right.
Is that gonna get caught in this?
No, sir. Hopefully we get that before all of this goes through.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Amity. Mr. Trosclair?
Yes, thank you. David, probably a question for you. The, all these, capital projects, you know, the, State Bank, Hanson Stabilization, Boudreaux Canals, maybe, is that something we anticipate doing with in-house employees, or is that something we contracted out?
No, sir. It's stuff that we've been dealing with for a while now that my operating budget just cannot bear the burden of throwing in-house. So we're gonna have to contract that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Trosclair. Danny Babbitt?
Yeah, the Cedar Grove to Ashland landfill levy, where do we stand with that in terms of, I know we have a permit. I think the permit came in this past year. How do we stand on funding to get that built? You know,
I'm looking up on our master project
Okay.
list that's still in the works, so give me a second. I know,
while you're looking for that, I'll ask Candace another question. Is there, we've had it before and we're gonna have it, continue to have it tonight and then at the next meeting where we're eliminating positions, okay? And we've already established that that was items that have been budgeted and that money basically, for lack of a better word, is just sitting there. Is there a number that you can come up with, and I don't mean tonight, what we're actually gonna save? Where we can put that money to use somewhere else?
So I can give you a number, but I can also tell you that that savings is already used in this budget.
Correct. But it's taken from there, but used somewhere else where we're getting benefit out of it. Moved, let me say, not
So
taken
it's,
from, moved from.
But it's, okay, if it is drainage, it stays within drainage.
Correct.
If it's general fund, it stays within general fund. So I can't take the drainage savings and push it over to general
No,
fund.
I understand that, but overall, there's gonna be, it seems like there's gonna be a cost savings. No matter what department it goes in, it stays within that department. It should be an overall savings to the parish, is what
So
maybe I'm not explaining this
it is
right.
a savings, as in we're eliminating it because we're saving it, but we're saving it and we are utilizing it in 2025's budget.
Correct.
So it's not, you won't see where our expenditures have decreased by the eliminating of those personnel
No.
because it's been moved to another line
No,
item.
and I don't mean to imply that, but the point is, it was, and for lack of a better word, it was dead money prior to that. Now we moving it somewhere else.
Yes, sir.
And Otherwise, we would have, and I'm just gonna use $1 million. Otherwise, we'd have to find $1 million from somewhere else to cover what
Yes,
we're
sir.
increasing.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So I'm just trying to see if there's a number to show how efficient that we're actually
We can
getting
get,
on.
yeah, we can get
Okay.
you a number.
So on your Cedar Grove project, so we show it as 3 projects. And this, again, once we get this
Correct.
project list finished,
It's 3.
that's something we're gonna share with everybody. Looking at 18,100,000. The money, we had about 500,000 spent permits and the work that we've been doing. Past that, we're looking for the funding, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll double check, but I think we submitted this to the federal government for the earmarks, our federal delegation for earmarks as a project. And so I'm gonna double
And the
check
18
that.
million is all 3 sections.
Yes.
Because it is
$1 million
divided
for
into
the
3
water
sections.
control, 8 million for the Cedar Grove to Ashland landfill levy, and 9 million for the Cedar Grove pump station.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So I do have an answer for Mrs. Sean Pine unless there's other questions. Okay, so that increase in the supplies and materials, majority of that was from diesel pumps. And if I'm not, I think I'm correct here, that was when the Hanson Canal pump came online. So that increased the diesel and the electricity and all of that for it. So that is where that came from. Okay, if no more questions on drainage, we'll jump over to fleet maintenance, which is going to be page 260. So the major funding source for fleet maintenance is user fees charged to departments, and it is about 1.1 million. And we do have a capital purchase of $80,000 for some fuel tank replacements. Pollution control. So we have a couple of different departments here. On page 223, your sewage collections for 2025 are estimated to be about 7.2 million. That is going to be used for sewage collections, which is on the next page, 224. We have major expenditures. We have utility cost of $440,000. We have a collection fee of 2.25% of all sewage revenue collected by Waterworks, and it accounts to about $160,000. We have sewer pump repairs of $80,000, contractor repairs of $225,000. We have eliminated 1 senior equipment operator and eliminated 1 line maintenance operator, and some capital purchases here for $3,380,000 is, oh, that's a typo. Bayou Country Sports Park sewage upgrade project, $500,000. Lift station project at Park and Morrison is $160,000, and the Forceman replacement of $2.7 million.
Ms. Kim.
Yes.
Followed by Mrs. Trustman.
Okay, so when I'm looking at this, we're putting 500,000 to upgrades at the Bayou Country Sports Park, but we really have, like Acadian we have problems with sewage coming up in people's houses. How do we go about saying that like a park's more important than a house? And listen, I get it. Everybody wants a nice park. I'm not against the park. But man, it's really hard to go into these people and tell them that, we can't do anything for them. So when do we get to that? And when do we even get a projected cost of what that project would be like, just in Acadian, because I've told you this, every hard rain and every hurricane, these people can't wash their clothes, they can't use the bathroom, they can't do any of these things.
Yeah, so going back to the CBGR money, we have the
Okay.
wastewater study. It's going to tell us every community that needs it and then what it takes to support it on the system. Similar to Clayton, we're dealing with the old clay pipes and the water getting into them and that whole deal. So we really feel like we're better do that. As far as the Bike Country Sports Park, we can get our team to give an update on what that is, because I think that is supporting a project that we did with some other funding. But I really believe that once we get that sewage study done. It's really going to be able to give us the opportunity, because there's a lot of, as grants we hear on a regular basis with water and sewage that we can apply for, but we don't have a mechanism. We don't have anything that says,
This
this
is what you
street's
need.
10 million, this was 1 million, and that we got to do 2 million back at the plant. So I think once we really have that, it's going to allow us the opportunity to go after some funding that we could very easily qualify for once we have it.
Okay, so question, because I know I'm gonna get this one from him. How long will this study take? And do you have a priority list of how you're gonna hit each piece of it? Like, like in Acadian area or whatever other areas, Broadmoor or any of the other areas in that part of it. When you're looking at this, what is the space of priority
So,
that you're looking at?
With the CDBGR funding, that is all stuff that we're reimbursed for. So we have to spend the money.
Right.
And when you look at, we had this conversation actually on stormwater today. It's there's some things that we've had some quotes on already, and some things we know are priority. I don't see how we don't go to the places that are having problems flushing their toilet and study those areas first. But
Right.
again, it's not just that area. It's what impact does that have on
Right.
both the north and south treatment plant. So,
Right.
I think as we get into it, again, resolving this issue is number one priority. And we know that water's going into the systems and it's just time. And so I think with that study, it's going to give us kind of some priorities and some things maybe, I'd hope we could get a study done, determine that area is in a big need, try to get that funding applied for as we continue to do studies. And I think we
Okay.
have that opportunity to do that. We got to spend the money by that 2028 time period. And when it comes to a study, those things should be on the front end of getting those things rolling so that we can take advantage of the data that we get and hopefully start making an impact right away. And I don't know if David or Scotty wants to elaborate any or not. Y'all are welcome to it.
And the reason I ask is because, I have them calling in a lot and I don't know how to answer them because listen, when I think about that kind of stuff happening at my own house, I know it's a health issue at this point.
Hi. Okay, so sports complex and residential,
I know it's
apples,
different.
oranges.
I know.
Totally different issues, right? The issue that we have at the complex right now is at least once, maybe twice a week, we have to take our vacuum truck and go and empty out each one of the wet wells out there because it was piecemeal together and it just ain't efficient. And so we're tying up a lot of resources with just dealing with that. Acadian as well as Oakshire, Broadmoor, this is a can that has been kicked down the road for decades. And I think we are in a position now to where we can actually start looking and getting a scope of exactly what has to happen. So I know we've talked about all of these areas about doing CIPP, right? Cast in place pipe. That's where they go in, they fill up a balloon and put a new pipe inside of the old pipe. We've used it downtown with great success. That study is going to give us where that CIPP will be best used at so we get the best bang for our buck. Also, and additionally, lift station upgrades. For example, for Oakshire, how big of a wet well do we need? Okay, if it's bigger than the footprint that we have, then the conversations that Mr. Bajoran and I have to have is how are we going to acquire the property, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The study timeline, I don't know, but I can tell you that I've been talking with CSRS, who's our consultant, helping us with that study. I've been talking with them weekly, and our chances are very good with the application.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for keeping up with that. I'm just not one of those can kickers. I'm like, I want to get it done.
You know how I feel too about those cans.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
And I'll share this. So Candace is sharing that one did get approved. So I know we've had a few approved together. And the other conversation is, one of the things that we have in an area to get funding in another place is the lift stations not having generators. And so one of the problems that when nobody evacuates and we get a heavy rain and then a lift station doesn't have a generator, and we've been working with portable generators and trying to move stuff around. And, the goal is to get permanent generators at all the lift stations. And then, you got to have fuel conversations and all. So again, that's where it goes into that, it's like 4 or 5 different pieces that have to make up it getting from that point A to that point B. But when you look at the processes that David's talking about, like a more cost-effective process, probably a faster process to resolve some issues, hopefully, if we can, and then what other upgrades that we have to have. And I've actually talked to some residents, and he was mad because he couldn't flush his toilet, and I was like, I get it. If I couldn't flush my toilet, I'd be mad too.
Yeah.
And so,
So there's no easy answer for him, but I just wanted to bring that up, and it's not that I don't think that the Bayou Sportsplex doesn't need what it needs. It's just that when I have a man who's calling me about his house,
Yes, ma'am.
right.
you know,
Just-
it's hard to say, well, we're gonna spend this much money there, but then I do know that it's from a different project and it has to go to whatever on that part of it. I'm good with that. I just want people to know that I'm not kicking this can. I'm gonna be a pain in the butt until we get this done, you know?
And I want to add,
I'm
I
looking
don't know if we were clear or not, but a lot of the problem that we are having is seepage, right? Rainwater getting into the pipes because of how old the pipes are.
Mhm.
And so, from what I've seen, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, and even in Oakshire and some of those other areas, that's some of the issues that we're dealing with. So when it rains and it floods and there's a lot of water, that water gets into the pipes, and that's what's causing everything to flood.
Yeah,
And
I can name a area in each one of your districts
Right.
that have the same thing. I mean, Mr. Babin knows that Barrios and Mulberry, the streets are in deplorable conditions, not because of the streets, but because of what's going on underneath the streets.
Right, and I'm just looking to do something where we have something where the flooding is not as bad as in these subdivisions,
I agree.
and that the sewage is finally fixed, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Chauvin. Mr. Steve Trosclair.
Yes, thank you. David, I think you answered what, I don't think, but I know you answered my question about the sports park. No, was it, my original question was gonna be, was this upgrades to new projects or repairs to old project? It looks like it's repaired, mostly repairs.
Yes, sir.
Would that be something that maybe we could go back onto the original contract? Is it a design flaw, or is it bad workmanship, or what's our problem?
Yes and no. So essentially, the park has been piecemealed together for decades now, right? And this design was perfect. This design was perfect, but to connect them two together is not compatible. And those things have to be ironed out with it.
Well, my question is, at that point, who did the design to hook them together? Was that
Various
in-house?
people, right?
Okay.
So we've had different consultants do different sections for different things, different concession stands. As far back as I can remember, they have had sewer issues with that
Okay.
because of that problem.
So I guess that'll bring me to my final question is, this $500,000, would that pretty much project the future expansions of the park coming in, or we just chasing another problem today?
I believe that that's going to help remedy the majority of the problems and lessen issues going forward with expansion. It allow for more expansion.
Okay, that's better than saying less of the issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Trosclair. Ms. Michelle Neal. Your light's on.
I didn't do it on purpose.
Stop it, Danny. Mr. Carl Hardy.
Thought she had a project she
Yeah,
wanted to
and-
throw in there.
David, in support, I guess I'm gonna ask this in support of Ms. Chauvin, to concern Mr. Trusclair and my concerns in White Country Sports Park. Okay, this park started to be funded, and we're actually taking some of the payment for this. Why is it coming out of sewage? And it doesn't apply with the millage, the hotel motel tax we have can actually take. It doesn't apply that way.
So it doesn't apply that way, and there is not enough funding there yet to do it that way.
Okay then. Yeah, because my concern there is, like Ms. Kim is saying, we're looking at athletics compared to someone livelihood in their homes. The other thing that I want to look at, and I just put my 2 cents in there trying to get a nickel, 3 more pennies, is the fact that when we actually doing business and we going down the line, we're hiring all these different engineers and all these different contracts, and evidently what I heard is it's not adding up. It's not gonna make a connect. So
Well, you have to remember, Mr. Harding, that the Bayou Country Sports Park started its build out with the recreation district, and then the parish took over. So I think that that's where some of that disconnect was, because it wasn't a parish project from the very beginning, and the rec district was doing some of those designs.
Yeah, and it's only just speaking out there because, like you said, you know, what I mean, we want a great sports complex, but we have our citizens too. So we want to make sure that in these fundings that we're doing it, because like you said, there are several streets out there that we actually have had work done, and then 2 or 3 years later, we got to go back, and we still paying these people to do shady work. So I'm just putting it out there, not anything in particular. I think I'm just saying across the board as we go. And we have to, some of these contractors that we have, make sure they don't get paid unless we go out there and inspect their work and make sure we're doing right. That's all. I'm just putting it out there like that.
And I want to throw out now, just kind of confirm with David. You know, kind of what we're seeing preliminary is not being able to to not be able to fix one project with $500,000. You know, I think if we could have, we would have already. And I'm gonna get David to get the numbers, like how much are we spending in the vacuum truck going out there once a week? You know, that's all the stuff we're kind of weighing into these decisions that say, you know, if I can spend 500,000 right now, then I save that money in a year and a half, 2 years. And if you guys are interested, we'll definitely get those numbers. But
Yeah.
okay.
And just to kind of capitalize on what President Bergeron just said, it's not just the numbers either. Let's take into consideration this crew that's going out there 2, 3 times a week, right, is not helping the constituents. They're not in the neighborhoods helping people's toilets flush when we're having to do that.
Yeah,
So
and
that
I work
there's a
I work the
benefit to
vacuum
that.
truck, and it doesn't take long to fill up the vacuum truck with water there. So
Right.
we're looking at within a day's time, you're gonna spend more time going to dump the water.
Yes, sir.
So you know, what I mean, we need to, you know, what I mean, take care of that problem. Right.
I agree.
Right.
Thanks, Mr. Harding. Ms. Candace?
Okay, so next we will look at the sewage treatment plant on page 226. There are no significant changes there. On page 228, this is pollution control administration. You will see us eliminating one engineering analyst. On page 230 is our sewage capital additions on top of the ones that we just talked about. So this is a capital of $1,055,000 for North Treatment Plant headworks and rehabilitation, North Treatment Plant improvements, and the North Treatment Plant SCADA. And then on page 231, you have the bonds that we pay for some of the sewage projects. So we have principal and interest paid in 2024 of $122,399, and it's proposed at $130,000 for 2025. Government buildings, we're going to go back to the front of the book. We are going to look on page on page 95. So government buildings, this is one of the reorganizations that we have proposed for 2025's budget. So in order to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the repairs and maintenance of the multiple government buildings, all facility maintenance positions will be transferred to this department. So this includes transferring one mechanical maintenance supervisor, one senior maintenance tech, 2 facility maintenance technicians, 6 facility maintenance assistants. Going to janitorial services on page 99. This is where we pay for all of the buildings to have cleaning services, and the general fund share of the contract for cleaning services is $311,632. Museums is going to be on page 111. And we do have currently we do have a contract with South Louisiana Wetlands Discovery to help run and maintain the museum, as well as to help seek funding to improve the displays. And that is for $50,000. The marina. No question?
Sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Harding.
Okay. We have a tenant in this particular building.
We do not have a tenant. We have the South Louisiana Wetlands Discovery, who does have office space. And in trade for that office space, they help us run the museum and get donations for the artifacts in there and run the little gift shop.
Okay then.
So they don't pay rent, but they do have office space, but they help us with the
So
running
we
of
go
it.
back to that balancing thing?
It's like an in-kind, right? They provide us a service.
Okay then. Thank you.
Okay, so in looking at the museum, I'm not quite sure we had an actual 3202 of visitors, and we're gonna go down 2204. And how are they projecting, like, you're gonna have a loss of people coming in, group tours, and a loss of special events?
So I do know that we are currently working on some repairs to the museum, as well as some major termite damage that we had that has been discovered when we were working on IDA repairs. I'm assuming that they know that this is gonna extend the closure of it for a while into 2025.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And I want to throw in something, as we did our quality of life change this year, getting our quality of life director involved in things like, if you look at the culture enrichment part of it, which is, downtown and some other things, part of that is volunteerism and nonprofits. And so what we're looking at as a whole, quality of life, this is something I think that fits into that, and having conversations about, what we doing with the museum is what we need to do, right? And is it up to date? And can we do something to bring more visitors in? So that's some of the stuff that we're definitely looking to do in quality of life in the coming year, to say, let's just make sure that the facilities we have like this and who's running them and all that stuff just equals what we're trying to do as a parish in that quality of life department. So I just want to share that's something we're doing.
Well, I've been there, and I would tell you that the water life part of it is definitely lacking, especially when you come to the commercial fisheries. It is lacking sufficiently. Like
You
it,
get you one of your
I'll
shrimp
go.
boats dropping
Hey,
in the water
I
right
got
there,
you.
huh?
I got you. I'll bring it over there. We'll do tours.
It lacks the sugarcane farmer too.
It does. It does. We like a few things, and maybe it would take somebody going in to say, hey,
And look,
can you add
if
some of
there's
these
something
things?
if you see something's missing and you see something that you think we can do differently or better, we want that feedback, right? We want to make sure, you look at, as things transition and things become more interactive, and, again, if we having, we're 1,223 to 3,200 in 2024, it's a
No, it's
decent
good.
jump, right? Hopefully that's related to the repairs and that we can get that number turning back around. But at the same time, as things change, as we get, things going on with the new building they've built, again, where are some opportunities for
It
us
just
to,
needs an upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
I was over there Friday, looking over some of the repair damage we got to take care of, and we're taking the opportunity to update some of the exhibits while we're doing those repairs. So there's a little bit of updating going on right now as we speak. So please, that'd be great.
Moving on to waterways and marina, this is going to be on page 118. This is actually no significant changes. We will move over to quality of life, athletics, and leisure. We're going to start looking on page 181 under those budget highlights. We have a 2.21 mil ad valorem tax for years 2021 through 2030. It was approved by the voters, and we're estimating it to be about 2.4 million in 2025. We have registration fees proposed that will generate an estimated 84,700, and our expenditures for Special Olympics and summer camps. Special Olympics is $35,554. And summer camps is $195,000. If you look on page 182, this starts our athletics and leisure administration. Let me get through all of this one, and then we'll get you, Mr. Harding. So we actually have no significant changes in the administration side of quality of life, athletics, and leisure. We have our sports officials. So this is wages and fringes of about $406,000, which is allocated to the various sports program. We have a quality of life program within here, and this has various other programs that have working on being implemented. Some Zumba classes, fitness classes, elderly classes, dance classes, and art classes. We have no significant changes to our Special Olympics. Our summer camp programs through cooperative endeavor agreements is $150,000, and that is our summer camp programs with our recreation districts. And we have the esports program through a cooperative endeavor agreement for $45,000. And then our tennis courts has no significant changes.
Yeah, and you had summer camps on 181, and that's 195, and you just mentioned summer camps again for 150. I think we have that's a decrease off page 181 with the summer camps of about what $50,000 or so, or 60.
So you have to do the $150,000, which goes to all of the recreation districts, and you have to add that $45,000 for esports to come up to the total 195.
Okay, and you just mentioned something in reference to quality of life and their camps also, didn't you? I'm trying
No,
to
sir. We have a quality of life department, which is on page 186, and this is for those types of programs that don't fit the normal basketball, football, softball, volleyball programs. So it's Zumba classes, fitness classes, arts classes on page 186.
And that's 50% less, 55% less than what we spent last year?
Yes, sir, it is. And part of that is we had the Bayou Region Arts Council arts program that ran out of here, but we have that as part of our CDBG DR project. We ran it out. No, I'm just joking. CDBG DR project program that we have in place, hopefully once it's approved, will help fund that program so we don't need to have it specifically coming out of this millage.
Okay then, yeah, all right. Use the money for something else, yeah.
So next is gonna be your Fund 285, which is our Bayou Country Sports Park. So you'll see that on page 198. We do have the hotel motel tax in the amount of $330,000 for 2025. And we use this for our annual debt service payment. And for 2025, that is $206,175. And any remaining funds will be used to supplement the Bayou Country Sports Park. Auditoriums, going to be back towards the front. You're going to look on page 145. So we have non-district recreation. This is part of quality of life department. This has a general fund transfer of $125,000, same as 2024. We have a parish-wide recreation transfer of $375,000, which is an increase of $100,000. Sales tax, they do get $111,000 of the 1/3 quarter cent sales tax that is collected. 1/3 of 1%. Auditoriums is going to be on page 146. This is transferring to facility maintenance. That's part of that reorganization. So we're transferring them to government buildings. On page 147, this is our parks and our grounds. We have a maintenance contract, and this is grass cutting and park maintenance, which is $165,000, which is an increase of $50,000. And we are adding one groundsman, grade 101. On page 148, let's finish this one and then we'll go. On page 148, which is still part of that non-recreation fund, we have personnel where we're eliminating 2 part-time groundsmen, grade 101. And I will tell you that those are 2 hard positions to get filled because they're usually just when the splash park is open. So that groundsman that we are adding in the parks and grounds will have some of their time divvied up between the 2. All right, question?
On these parks that we had, I know we got some parks that are added, and then even from last year, we added, what, $50,000 to it. Are we funding that enough when we're actually acquiring more of these parks? Are we actually going to be able to actually handle these parks with the amount of money that we have? because we were actually falling short with adding the $50,000.
Yes, sir. You're correct. So if you remember a couple of weeks ago, we did a budget amendment to add some money into these accounts for this maintenance. So we have taken that into account for 2025.
Okay then, all right, thank you.
Ms. Chauvin?
All right, one of mine is this, it's sort of the same question, but I don't see like the softball park on here, and it was probably on another piece of it.
So it is not in here yet, and it is not in here because when we created this and proposed it, none of that had been approved yet.
Okay, so my worry is this, I've been to the softball park and it needs a lot of work. How are we funding this, and where's the money coming from?
We have done a capital outlay request, and I do believe that Ms. Jessica Domingue had put in a request for us to help with that repairs for the airbase softball complex.
Okay, so we're doing a capital outlay, and so my question is this: if you would not get that money, then we are not ready to move forward with anything to do to the softball park. Have all the FEMA funds come through to fix the softball park? And I'm just asking because, like, I'm trying to make this work in my head.
Just for clarity, Ms. Candace, you said Air Base Softball Park. Where is that? The one off of Prospect, or which one?
I'm talking about the
Adult.
Adult softball.
Adult
Okay, so that's
softball. I'm
not
sorry.
on the Air
Adult.
Base. Yeah,
Sorry.
that was-
Sorry.
oh, no, you're good. You're good. You're good.
I was
Okay.
talking about that one. I just had the wrong
Right.
age.
No, it's
No,
It's been
you're
a
good.
long Monday. So to answer that question, Ms. Chauvin, I don't know about the FEMA reimbursements because that has been done through Rec 11 because it is their responsibility as a separate legal entity to work on their reimbursements. But we will follow up on that and let you know what has been repaired and what hasn't based on that, because we will have to take that over once we officially take over the park.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying there. This is my next question. If you do not get capital outlay funding, what is Plan B?
So the conversation on capital outlay funding was to basically start working on some projects at that facility, right? Because we have money Jessica found for the restrooms,
Right?
right? But there needs to be more funding. So there's conversations about the master plan and what is the next stuff to work on. And then from there, I know we'll want to press this button over here and talk about kind of the maintenance, and maybe Jim will even have some information of what we see to get done with maintenance with those facilities, because this is all going in that quality of life.
Okay.
Leroy?
So I do expect to achieve some economies of scope with cleaning all these parks and having this done in-house. I think the adult softball complex is in working order currently. I know it's not perfect. I know we repaired the lights, well, Rec 11 repaired those lights and got those working. I know it's been back into operation since the beginning of the year. And, you know, it needs improvement, consistent improvement. These are things that we're going to have to do over a period of time, just like if Rec 11 had it, right? It will be great to get some capital outlay money to do some big projects, but in the meantime, we're going to take small bites to continue to improve it year over year with the great team that we got that's going to be running it. So.
Thanks, Mr. Leroy. Just to add, a couple of these parks, we took them away from those guys for safety issues. So we might, if I can suggest, we might want to go out there and make sure the safety is taken care of first. You know, I know it's going to take some time, but at the same time, the safety factor. Now I don't want to be confused, straight on what park we're talking about as far as the softball complex, but Representative Domingue, if I'm not mistaken, the state has $250,000 ready to go right now for the bathroom facilities out there, right, at the splash park.
Yes, that's what I was referencing.
So we have not gotten the CEA from the state, so we can't do anything until we get that.
Okay, so we need a CEA from the state. So I need to call Representative Domingue, get a CEA from the state so we can get working, because I know it's the end of the year for them, and somebody's going to be looking to take that money if we don't spend it. So I'll follow up with that, though. Thanks.
And I want to throw out on the safety perspective, I really got to give a shout out to our risk management department. They went out, I want to say, last Thursday or Thursday before last, and that department cut down, I think it was all the unsafe apparatuses at the Shady Oaks, sorry. And they did that because we got an estimate of $10,000 for somebody to do it. And they went and did it with our own labor and saved a bunch of money doing that. So I want to really give a shout out to risk manager for getting involved and getting their hands dirty to get that fixed themselves.
Councilor Learoyd?
So if y'all remember, we transferred Shady Oaks. That was the first park we transferred over back to the parish. And the plan for that park and all these other parks that we're going to be taking care of is to, one, do a risk assessment, like you mentioned, Mr. Pledger, and identify those things that are a problem and remove them, return it to green space, and slowly build as we can find capital for it. In the Shady Oaks, for instance, there is some interest from some of our community partners to possibly be donors in that park. That's a park that's had a master plan for it for decades now. I think it was done in the 70s, redone in 2016. Had a lot of interest in the past on revamping it. So now we're going to explore those private partner opportunities to bring it back up. But the first thing with that park and all these other parks is to eliminate the hazards, return to green space, and just take care of what we got as we build up. So Shady Oaks is a great example of using our risk management team along with roads and bridges to eliminate those hazards and get it back right. So that's a plan of action we plan to take with adult softball complex and all those other parks you see on that list.
Okay, moving on to our Civic Center. So we will look on page 240. Civic Center receives a special dedicated hotel motel tax, which we are proposing collections in 2025 to be $328,000. There are some self-generated revenue from facility use rentals, marketing, celebrity promotions, food and beverage sales, and this is proposed to be $634,550. We do have a general fund supplement for 2025, which is proposed to be $750,000. There are several personnel changes here, and this has to do with a lot of the reorganization within the quality of life department. So we're going to transfer 3 facility maintenance assistants to government buildings. We're going to eliminate 1 senior facility maintenance tech, eliminate 1 executive secretary, eliminate 1 sales and marketing coordinator, add 1 administrative coordinator, and eliminate 1 administrative tech 2.
Okay, so when you're talking about the proposed 634, how are we getting an increase of 155 when I'm looking at, hold up on the other page, the same amount of rentals? And I know that it's hard to project whether you're gonna have meeting rooms or the whole hall or the parking lot or whichever it may be that you're renting. But how are we coming to that, and how are we having a decrease in the general fund supplement? Like we're pulling 100,000 away from
Yes.
Civic Center on that. Okay. So
Yes,
how are we
ma'am.
coming to the
So
increase?
to answer the question on the increase in the charges for services, we do this budget twofold. So we first look at the numbers, and we come up with that 634,000 based on the historical data that we have, based on the information that we know from Civic Center as to which contracts are coming up, which things have already been signed. The departments themselves are going to be the ones that do these goals, objectives, and measurements.
Okay.
So where they're projecting a decrease in the number of events or keeping it the same as 2024, the number of events that we're expecting are going to be different types that's going to collect more revenue. So it's more space, it's more of the parking lot. We also will have more available spaces for people to rent out now that hurricane repairs are going to be complete. So it kind of all plays into how that gets determined.
Okay.
So does that answer that question? No.
Yeah, so I remember hearing that we were booked for 2 years. Would you not, from the contract of each of, like, have they signed contracts for 2 years to where you can tell exactly what is being rented?
We could, but we actually,
But then it wouldn't be a
but there's-
projected budget, it would be like for real.
but we still have to project or propose those that are
Right.
not gonna have a contract yet, that are gonna come in and still rent out the Civic Center. And the whole reason we have to do that is part of the state law requirement of us being within a 5% variance of actual to final budget. So instead of having to come to you guys every time somebody rents the Civic Center, we go ahead and add a little bit of revenue so that way it's budgeted for it there.
Okay, hold up, I'm a little confused. We said we had it booked up for 2 years. Is there room within the 2 years to get others? Yeah.
I want
just tell
to,
me,
so
'cause I'm
I've,
trying to
I know I've
understand it.
said My understanding is we're booked 2 years solid for Fridays and Saturdays, right?
Ah,
Right.
okay, no, that
And the other part of this reorg and the way, we actually met with the Civic Center group and said, what's going well, what's not going well. They were concerned about the reorg and if anybody was going to lose their job. And all the issues that they talked about, been trying to deal with for the last 15 years and 20 years, the conversation was, well, that's why we're looking to do some stuff with reorg, right? And so, for example, having a person that works the ticket master, right? The fact that we really don't have ticket master anymore. So there's opportunities to do that a little bit differently and better, but also the same conversation of somebody can verbally say they want something a year from now and it's been held, but we don't have commitments and deposits and some opportunities to actually really make sure if you want it, you got to put a deposit on it and hold it to get it, right? So we're just trying to figure out some ways to just be more efficient in how that civic center's run. There's a foundation that, as I understand, they've been a group that we go to for $150,000 to put on events. We hadn't touched that in 3 years, right? So there's just things that, again, not caring why we got here, how we got here, but going forward, meeting with the team, meeting with Jim now being in quality of life and in charge of all that of like, how do we run and maintain the Civic Center differently and better? And then you look at the stuff we're doing with buildings where we're having conversations about, well, you need an electrician. It's not this person's assigned to that building. If you need this resource, this is how we're going to do it. So all this does kind of come together that allows us to run it a little bit differently and more efficiently.
Okay, so what you're saying is even though we have like a 2-year booking, it's not a definite booking because they haven't put deposits down. So let me ask you this, if somebody calls in to do it, why aren't you why wouldn't you take a deposit at that point? Because you're counting on having that space dealt with and so you can move forward.
Like,
Okay,
if y'all know Jimothy behind me right here, or Jimmy as you call him.
okay, go ahead.
Jim.
I'm not sure if it's in an ordinance or if it's in policy, but we don't accept any deposits until that event is a year out. I'm not sure if that's not to collect all kind of money and have just sitting there or what, or using money before we actually get to it. But you're allowed to book, and the people who are reoccurring get first right of refusal, but we don't accept any deposits or any payments until a year from the date. So right now, somebody could book and pay for something in October of 2025, but as far as October of 2026, we would pencil you in. If somebody called to book that, we give you first right of refusal since you're reoccurring, but we would not collect on it.
Okay, so you mentioned policy. We have a policy book for the Civic Center?
We are working on cleaning that up, but there's some mixed matched policies that exist that are floating around that we need to get all in one place. So we have been working with legal, with administration, trying to clean that whole process up.
So this is my question. Wouldn't it be just for safety's sake of making sure that you have the 2-year bookings done, that you do a deposit and put it in a separate account that you can't touch?
That was one of the first questions I asked.
In case of, like a hurricane comes and,
Right.
we have, I don't even want to say it, but anyway, one of those things happens.
We have a while of no activity,
storming
and
this
that way,
weekend, by the way.
yeah, I understand.
Right, but so I'm just wondering, I mean, I know that we have many different various accounts, so it would seem to me that business sense, that would make business sense to me.
Right.
to do
So
that.
one of the things I had a conversation about, and look, I've tried to book the Civic Center and I can't for lip sync battle competition, selfish promotion. But when you look at that, the fact that it wasn't available and we didn't have money held, right? I said, okay, that's something we need to work on. If I'm not mistaken, and I have to go back and check, I think there's actually something that says in an ordinance and or policy that we can't book out 3 years. Like we could lock somebody up for 5 years, but I think ordinance or policy stopping us from doing that. And that's why we're just going through. And the more we look into this ordinance, Michelle and I had the conversation the other day, we're having to make requests to get copies of ordinances because there's so many different references that we're making a manual of the Civic Center ordinances. And again, just trying to clean these things up. And some of this goes into, because we hadn't been able to make money on the rent, we've been doing it in catering. And we want to change that. And there's a 17% markup on catering. And I'm looking at reducing that and then maybe giving nonprofits a discount for that catering. And the fact that food trucks can't go in. I mean, there's just so many things coming from so many different ordinances that we're trying to take a bite out of it to where we can have an opportunity to not remove $750,000 from general fund, Because when you look at the fact that we're moving $750,000, that's, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, the loss that we have. These are all different opportunities of how, again, once we did this study comparing us to every other facility in the Southeast Louisiana, how are they doing it? How are they scheduling? How are they booking? How much do they charge? Like this whole study encompassed all of that information, and we're going, okay, the first step is let's make some adjustments to some things here so that it makes it easier to book and we can guarantee some funding and the food. And I've personally dealt with the frustrations of trying to hold events at the Civic Center and how the food works. And, I've worked that from so many different functions. It's that I'll be honest, I came into this going, we got to make it better. We got to make it more friendly. I got residents reach out on a regular basis. I wish I could serve food and I wish I could do this and I wish I could have food trucks at my event. And all the ordinances and policies that I have in place right now are stopping us from being able to do a lot of that.
It was my understanding that by ordinance, it was 1 year and that the council granted a variance to one organization, and I'm not sure right off the top of my head who it is, that one organization could book out 2 years in advance. I believe it may be Jehovah Witness Church, because in order for them to move from where they were out of town here, they needed a guarantee of so many years. And I'm not sure if the council granted a variance to book them out 2 years or 3 years at a time, but just to lock them in, to get them to move, that was authorized.
Yeah, it looks like we need to look at that. But okay, so we have enough money in here to maintain the building of the Civic Center.
So I'd like to share some information that I recently received. So I was actually getting ready to lead the parade for the Rougarou, and there was a lady standing at the entrance of Civic Center Boulevard from the Civic Center, and she had some things and was directing people, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And so I got to looking, and there's sticks about this much where the drain is, and so I took some pictures, sent it to our team. They did a preliminary assessment, and right now we're looking at a minimum of about $200,000 to fix the parking lot. On top of the fact that I've talked about before, the $800,000 with the bleachers that we wasn't able to replace because we only replaced one of them through IDA. So I mean, right off the bat, we're looking at $1 million worth of projects to get the Civic Center. Not even at a level that, and of course, some of the IDA repairs. That's the other thing we're going through. We're going through IDA repairs. The temporary roof got ripped off for Francine. What is the delta of those two things? The mold that's been there has all been related to IDA repairs, and it's sitting this way for 3 years. That we're just being able to get to this because of the FEMA funding. Once all that's cleaned up and those repairs are made, and then we look at, okay, we got, $1 million worth of capital we got to do right off the bat. And then what's the delta of that? What else are things that we need to improve upon just to bring the Civic Center to a standard that does make it a lot more competitive, but at the same time, I can tell you, I've earned it myself because it was the most cost-effective solution. And I've been through that journey. So, as we unravel this thing, there are some things that we're trying to do sooner rather than later, so we could try to not transfer $750,000 out of general fund. And as we talked about a few other projects, is as we go through some of these things and make some changes that, again, make it easier for us to rent it, make it easier for people to, like, I understand, and this is something we're going through in policy, that to be a caterer, you got to turn your financials into us. I don't understand that, right? There's just a bunch of stuff that, because we've tried to make the money up on the catering side of things, that needs to just be done differently or better. And that's why we're trying to make a lot of the changes that we are.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the Civic Center? Okay, we will move over to the City Marshal, which is on page 150. And we have a general fund transfer of $405,000, which is a decrease of $50,000. Criminal Court Fund, which is going to be on page 199. Yes, sir. Sorry. Are we talking about Criminal Court Fund, or are we going back to Marshall?
Marshall?
Marshall is on page 150.
Ms. Kim?
All right. How are you decreasing on the Marshall part? I'm just kind of wondering, what are we doing that we're that we're decreasing.
Yep, so in 2024, as well as in 2023, we purchased, or the city marshal purchased vehicles that we helped to fund, and we're not doing that in 2025.
Thank you.
Candace?
All right, moving over to criminal court fund, which is going to be on page 199. Budget highlights, we have fines and forfeitures revenue of 2.5 million. We have a general fund supplement of 2.81 million, which is an increase of 270,000. We have a juvenile detention supplement of 185,000, which is the same as 2024. Mental health and drug abuse fund supplement 47,514, which is the same as 2024. And we have 2 personnel changes, eliminate 3 caseworkers and eliminate 2 investigators. Also, part of criminal court fund will be the district attorney, which is going to be on page 69. All the way back in the front. There is a madness to this list, I promise. It's so that the people in the audience don't have to keep coming and sending up and stuff. So there is a madness to it. There is a method to the madness. It is madness. So for district attorney, we the budget highlights are going to be actually no significant changes.
Ms. Chauvin?
I do have one, and I'm not sure if anybody here is from the DA to even answer this. The number of offenders referred to drug court, you had 90 in 2024. I don't see anything in this parish that is like really getting at this, that now we're gonna have 78. We're coming down because we have what?
Hi.
Hi.
Kevin Guidry with the District Attorney's Office, 7856 Main Street. If we had the resources and revenue, we could do a whole lot better. The drug courts across the country are mandated to operate in a certain manner through the federal government, and there is some federal funds that come into it. So it's a pretty stringent process to enter someone into the drug court. For example, no one that has ever been convicted of any violent crimes
Right.
can come into the drug court. So I'd like that number to be 100. We would love that number to be 100 next year and grow. With the resources, staff, and the requirements to get in, that's what our people are projecting for this coming year. We did pick up, we had dropped down into the 30s, through COVID and Ida. So we're pretty proud of the fact that we were able to beef up last year and almost hit that 100 mark. It is our goal to do that on an annual basis. 100 is about the total that we can accommodate. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that's where we are with that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, we're moving on to Terrebonne Juvenile Detention Fund. So this is going to be page 128. So we have ad valorem taxes that are levied for 20 years through a 0.96 mil and a 0.94 mil. And this is estimated to bring in $2,071,232 for 2025. We have some revenue that is generated from housing, state DOC juveniles, and from Office of Youth Development, which is estimated to be $75,000. Revenue for housing out of parish juveniles, which is estimated $150,000. We do have a general fund supplement of $650,000, which is a decrease of $150,000. The Terrebonne Juvenile Detention does transfer $185,000 to the criminal court fund for the Spark. And we have some personnel changes. We have eliminate 4 juvenile care associates, add 2 part-time juvenile care associates, and transfer 1 facility maintenance tech and transfer 1 part-time facility maintenance assistant, both of those to government buildings. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I kind of like the fact that we have our maintenance men being in one spot. No offense to how we ran everything in the past. I think that we're saving positions, even though it sounds like we're eliminating a lot of positions. You follow what I'm saying? And we're being more efficient. We can send a crew over there instead of having a guy sitting down in the building that haven't been rented in a month and a half and paying him 40 hours just to sit down and look at the grass grow. So I appreciate that part of it. Thank you.
Charles Claire?
Yeah, a question for Mr. Harris, if you would.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Joe? I know we house, state juveniles, in our facilities.
Yes, sir.
Are we limited to the amount that we can house, or is that full? Do we normally keep that area filled up, or that's something we could pursue to try to house more?
That's a good question. Through our creative management, I've managed to keep that at an acceptable level. Working with OJJ and also with out of parish entities as well. Right now, we're slated to hold 32 juveniles.
Correct.
Okay. On an average, we hold about 20 juveniles any given day. Within that 20, you may have some out of parish, you may have some OJJ. As you all are hearing that we have a lot of issues of hiring employees to fill those positions. With our creative management, with the employees that I'm able to hire and the ones that I'm able to retain, then I'm able to keep at least up to 20 kids per day. Anything over that goes into overtime, which now stretches my budget out
Correct.
a little bit longer. So we try to maintain a comfortable level of kids through OJJ as well as out of parish, and taking those kids who really fit the criteria for the program that we're running at juvenile detention. But there are opportunities where I have discussions with OJJ where the normal rate will be 147. I request the maximum weight at 250. So there are some opportunities for us to talk a little bit to get the rate up a little bit as well.
Negotiation.
Exactly. Our out of parish rate is $256 a day from day one.
Correct. And the reason I'm asking this question, I see, we're eliminating 4 care associates, and I understand that they're not positions that are already filled, but if we eliminate them and you that restricts the amount of inmates that you can take in if you don't have the opportunity to have these positions filled. So you basically would have to come back to the council and do another an adjustment to it.
Depending on how that, from year to year, it changes.
Well, I tell you what, let's just simplify it. Right now, as you stand with the employee base you have now, are you maxed out, or can you take on more inmates?
I could take on more inmates up into another unit. If I have to go to one more unit, then I'll be
So
maxed out.
how many are we talking about, right? You say your average?
On average,
20 to
I have girls and boys.
Right.
So 32 beds, 24 boys, 8 girls. On an average, I'm looking at about 16 boys, 4 girls.
Okay. So you don't really have much room to.
Right. And we're trying to maximize our peer bed space for Terrebonne Parish juvenile
Correct.
kids
We want to
only.
take care of ours first.
Right, that really need to be in detention. I don't just take any old kid, but the kid that really need to be in detention. Now, if I had 32 kids, all I would be doing is just warehousing, no programming, no nothing. With my 20 kids that I have here now, I'm able to do effective programming.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'd like to add, if y'all don't mind, if you hadn't made it there yet, to go check that place out. When he talks about the programming, it's definitely not about, just housing kids. They're working to try to get these kids into whatever form of society they can. And if you hadn't checked that out, I highly recommend going check it out because they're running an amazing program. And I know I've had other people reach out to me to get more information on their program so they could run it like ours. And I just want to give Joe credit on what they're doing. And I'd definitely recommend checking it out.
Thank you.
When you're looking at the juvenile care associate, what qualifications do they have to have for this job?
One of the qualifications we're looking for an individual at least that's 21 years of age, who has the compassion, the care to work with our type of juveniles and within Terrebonne Parish.
Okay.
So I just want to be able to sit down with that individual, have a conversation with them to see if they will fit for what we need.
Okay, so no educational requirement.
At least a high school education.
High school education.
Yes.
Okay, no, that makes sense. All right, thank you.
You good? Right. No, you're good. I see that, right? Ms. Candace, back to you again.
Yes, sir. And I just want to reiterate a little bit. Mr. Charles Clare asked about the eliminating the positions. One of the reasons that we did do the 2 part-time positions is so that if there is a possibility of additional kids and we need more people there, we have it and we're not paying the benefits and all of that for that person. So there was a reason that we added those 2 part-time to kind of help with some of that.
Can't give all my secrets away.
I just gave it away, Joe. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I see.
All right. So if we are finished with juvenile detention. Okay.
Thank
So mental health is on page 281. I'm sorry. Fund 281 is on page 191. It's getting tired. It's getting late. We have an ad valorem tax of 0.42 mils, which was renewed in 2013, and it is for the years 2020 through 2029. The estimated revenue is $457,851. We do have an allocation of this ad valorem that we go 60-40, so 60% mental health, 40% to alcohol and drug abuse. And we have a transfer to the criminal court fund for the drug court department of $47,514. And the breakdown of both the Terrebonne Treatment Center and the Assessment Center is on the following 2 pages, which has no significant changes there. And the last one for the night is our debt service fund. And this one is, if you just look on page 266, you will see that we are proposing some revenues of 11.4 million and some expenses of 11.7 million. So these funds here for the 400s is where we pay all of our principal and interest. It's on page 266. The principal and interest for all of our outstanding debt. So just to let you know, governmental accounting, we only budget for what is due for that year. So 2025, so these payments are just the principal and interest that'll be coming up in 2025. This does not include the hurricane bonds. Those are in our emergency fund. So just to let you know too, right now at the end of 2024, going into 2025, we have a total of $118 million outstanding in bonds. So of that, we are going to pay about 11.7 million down in principal and interest. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Ms. Candace. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Steve Trosclair, second, Ms. Kim Chauvin. Seeing no discussion, members vote your machines.